Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Humblehus. Thank you for being here. I am going to show you how to make this beautiful bonnet today. I love bonnets. I think they look adorable on all children and they're very practical. They keep you warm. Well, not you, but your child, unless you're making it for yourself. They can also help with children that have sensory needs, such as my daughter. Or maybe your child wears glasses and they don't like to keep them on. So this kind of helps them. I do want to mention, don't ever leave your child unattended with any type of bonnet, scarf, headband, any of those things. This bonnet, you can make it into any size. So from newborn all the way to the older children. I will tell you exactly where to stop so that you can make it into that specific size. Now I am only going to go up to my daughter's size right now, which she's 2 years old. She has a head circumference of about 20 inches. If you do want to make it for an even bigger child, it's pretty easy to follow that pattern to just make it larger. But if you have any questions, let me know. So let me tell you what you're going to need. These are the things I always keep on hand. I always have scissors, measuring tape, a yarn needle, stitch markers, and of course, lots of hooks. Today, I will be using a 3.75 millimeter one. It's the size F. The yarn that I'll be using today is going to be this wool-like simile lane by Loops and Threads. It is a super fine one. The recommended hook size is a 3.5 millimeter hook or size E, but I want the stitches to be a little wider, which is why I am sizing up just a little bit. Now this is 85% acrylic and 15% nylon, and the color is rose. First thing we need to do is a magic ring. Okay, so you take this loose end, lay it flat on the table, then you're going to make a loop. Make sure that you go over that yarn. Now with your index and your thumb, you're going to take the yarn. You have the loop right here. Now grab your hook and insert through the circle. Grab the yarn that leads to the skein and sort of start pulling it into the circle, but now you're going to take your middle finger back here, these two fingers, and your pinky. Your pinky is going to hold that circle like that, so nothing falls apart. I know it takes some practice. Now you're going to yarn over and make one chain, yarn over and do a second chain. And that is it. There's your magic ring, and you have the 2 chains already that we need. Now, if this was too complicated, there are many ways to do a magic ring. You are welcome to Google a different way of doing it. These 2 chains do not count. Okay, we need to work 12 double crochets into this ring. How are we going to do that? Very easy. Okay, you have to be careful how you hold this ring because you don't want to pull on it or anything like that. It has to stay open. So to start your first double crochet, you're going to yarn over and you're going to go into the ring. And yes, I know there's 2 yarns because you have that loose end, and that's okay. We need that. So you go into the ring, and then you're going to yarn over and pull up that loop. So try to hold these yarns with your finger like this, otherwise it will kind of turn. Then yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. Now this is where you need your stitch marker. You're going to go through these 2 loops right here. Right there. Add that stitch marker. So this is your first double crochet, because remember those 2 chains don't count. Now again, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. One more time, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And now I have 3. Like I said, I need a total of 12 of these double crochets, and I will meet you as soon as you are done with these. I have finished those 12 double crochets. This is where we will close that magic ring, and all you have to do is take that loose end and pull on it while holding the stitches. Now I am back here at my stitch marker, and I am going to work my first double crochet for round number 2 into that stitch. Now it goes through 2 loops, so you have to go through those 2 loops. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, now I am going to take off my stitch marker, and I am going to transfer it to that stitch that we just made. Let me get a close-up. So here's those 2 loops. Add that stitch marker. So this was your first double crochet. Now this second round is all increases. An increase means that you do 2 stitches into 1 stitch. So we already did 1 stitch, 1 double crochet stitch in here. Now we are going to do a second one into that same stitch. So that is our first increase. Right here into this stitch. Now we move on to the next stitch over here, and I will do another increase. So 2 double crochets into that same stitch. So I did my increase in here, and now I move on to the next stitch. So into every of those 12 double crochets that you had from the previous row, you're going to make an increase. So by the time you get back to the stitch marker, you're going to have 24 double crochet stitches. Okay, because remember, each one now has 2 double crochet stitches. So if you count them separately, it is now 1, 2, 3, 4 double crochets that I have here. Okay, but if you count them in increases, I only have 2 increases so far. This is the end of round number 2. Let's move on to round number 3. Here's my stitch marker. I'm going to work a double crochet into that stitch. Now I am going to take off my stitch marker and add it up here where I just made that stitch. I'm going to do another double crochet into that same stitch. This is my first increase into this stitch. 2 double crochets into the same stitch. Now I move on to the next stitch, and I am only going to do 1 double crochet stitch, no increase. Like that. Now on to the next stitch, I am going to do 1 increase. So 2 double crochets into that same stitch. My next stitch will be 1 double crochet, so no increase. And that is the pattern for this round. Okay, 1 increase, 1 double crochet, 1 increase, 1 double crochet. At the end of this round, you will have 36 double crochet stitches by the time you reach your stitch marker. I will meet you at the end of this round, and by the way, your last stitch is going to be a single double crochet, okay, not an increase. This is the end of round number 3. Now moving on to round number 4. Once again, I double crochet into that stitch with the stitch marker, take out my stitch marker and add it up here. Now I will do another double crochet into that same stitch so that I have the increase right here at the beginning of round 4. Now the next 2 stitches are both going to have 1 double crochet each. Now the next stitch, I do 1 increase again. There's my increase. Now the next 2 stitches, you do 1 double crochet each. That is the pattern for this round, and at the end of this round you are going to have a total of 48 double crochet stitches. That means that when you get to the end of this round, when you're about to get to your stitch marker, the last 2 stitches will be single double crochet, so no increases there. This was the end of round number 4. Let's move on to round number 5. You will double crochet once again into that stitch with the stitch marker. Take out your stitch marker and add it to the top. Now do another double crochet into that same stitch so that you have that increase. And now you are going to do 3 double crochets into the next 3 stitches. That means the pattern for this round is increase and then 3 double crochet stitches, increase, 3 double crochet stitches. At the end of this round, you are going to have 60 double crochet stitches. I will meet you when you are done with those. This is the end of round number 5. You now have 60 double crochet stitches. If you are making this for a newborn, you're going to stop right here and then fast forward to the part of the body of the bonnet. Okay, if you're making this for a bigger child, then we continue on to round number 6. You're going to double crochet into that stitch marker. So as usual, take out your stitch marker, insert up here, and now do another double crochet into that same stitch. Okay, so that is your first increase. Now for the next 4 stitches, you will do 4 double crochets, 1 into each of those stitches. And then you do another increase, then repeat 4 double crochet stitches into the next 4 stitches. At the end of this round, you are going to have 72 double crochet stitches when you reach your stitch marker. Okay, so the same amount of double crochets that you have in between each increase is the same amount that you should have left at the end. So I have 4. That means the last 4 stitches are going to be double crochets, 1 into each. This is the end of round number 6. So if you are making this bonnet for a baby that is about 0 to 3 months old, then this is where you want to stop and fast forward to the body of the bonnet. Otherwise, we'll continue. Now we are going to once again do a double crochet into our stitch marker for round 7. Insert up here and do another double crochet into that same stitch for our first increase. This time we are going to have 5 stitches with double crochets and then the increase. 5 stitches, 5 double crochet stitches, increase, and so on. At the end of this round, you are going to have 84 double crochet stitches. I am now done with round number 7. So if you're making this for a child that's about 3 to 6 months, this is where you would want to stop. And then just fast forward to the body of the bonnet. But if not, then continue with me on to round number 8. I think you pretty much already know how it goes, that you do your double crochet into that stitch with the stitch marker, add it up here, then do another double crochet into that same stitch. So this is your first increase. Now we are going to do 6 double crochet stitches, 1 increase, 6 stitches, 1 increase, and so on until you get to the end of this round. And at the end you are going to have 96 double crochet stitches. Okay, we are done with round number 8. This is where you stop if you're making this for a 6 to 12 month old. And then just fast forward to the body of the bonnet, to that part. If you are making it for a bigger child, then we continue on to. So as usual, just start with your double crochet, add your stitch marker, and then do another double crochet into that same stitch. And this time we are going to do 7 double crochets into the next 7 stitches, and then do your increase. Then repeat 7 double crochets, 1 increase, all the way till you get to your stitch marker. You should have 108 double crochet stitches at the end of this round number 9. This is the end of round number 9, and I'm going to continue. So if you're doing it for a 1 to 2-year-old, this is where you stop, and then meet me at the body of the bonnet. So fast forward the video. Once again, we do our increase first, and then we are going to work into the next 8 stitches, 8 double crochets, and then we do an increase, then repeat 8 double crochet stitches into the next 8, and 1 increase. So at the end of round 10, you are going to have 120 double crochet stitches. Now we will begin with the body of the bonnet. So I've done the rounds that I wanted to do, in my case 10 rounds. And for the body of the bonnet, you need to keep some things in mind, because depending on the size that you're making is how many rows you will make. I want to give you an example. So this is a different bonnet. This is not the one we're making, but I just want to show you. You are going to, so here's that circle that we just made, but you are going to measure the width, so or the depth, I should say, of the bonnet is from where you started your circle all the way to the front. Here are the measurements that you need for the different sizes. So as you crochet along with me, you will need to stop and measure to see if you've reached that depth, because obviously for newborns it's going to be different than for a 2-year-old. The newborn is not going to have as many rows as a 2-year-old. Let's start with our first round, but first we want to make the space for the neckline up here. So you're finished with whatever round that you've done, so whether you did 7 rounds or 9 rounds, you got to your last stitch. So now we need to close this circle off. The way you're going to do that, let me zoom in. So where you have your stitch marker, so this is for all of the sizes, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to insert your hook through that stitch where the stitch marker is. You're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, and then that loop you're going to pull it again through the one that is on your hook, like that. So that is a slip stitch. I'm going to take this out. Now I am going to chain 1, so yarn over and pull through the loop, and then into that same stitch I am going to do a single crochet. So you insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. I'm going to add my stitch marker into that stitch that I just did. Okay, you need to pay close attention, because now we are going to count back. So you just worked this stitch right here. See if I can get it all in the camera. Okay, you have that stitch right there. You did the chain 1, the single crochet, and here was your slip stitch. You can clearly see your double crochet stitches from the previous row. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Into this 6th stitch, you will add your stitch marker. Take this out. Just keep these 2 stitch markers. And now we begin round 1 of the body. So you come back over here where you already did your single crochet, and then this next stitch you're going to skip it, and you're going to work a single crochet into the stitch after that. So you skip this one and you work your single crochet in here. Like that. Then you continue on to your next stitch and you do the same. All around you are going to do single crochet stitches. Okay, until you get to the stitch marker on the other side, and I will meet you right there. Okay, here I am at the other end. I've reached my stitch marker, so this is that first round. You are going to take out your stitch marker and actually skip that stitch, and then you're going to do a single crochet into the stitch right after that. So we just took out the stitch marker from here, and now you will work your single crochet in here. So that is going to leave you with, just so that this way you can make sure that you did it the correct way. So you just worked in here into this stitch. That means you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 full stitches in between the 2 stitch markers. Because remember, this was your slip stitch, chain 1, and so on. All right. Now, after every round, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. But the next round, so this is now round number 2 of the body, you don't need to skip any stitches. Okay, you're actually going to single crochet into that same stitch in there. Going to do your single crochet. You're going to add your stitch marker, like that, and you're going to continue with single crochets for this whole round, all the way to the other stitch marker. So this is the end of round 2 of the body, and here I am at my stitch marker. So this time we're not, like I said, we're not skipping any stitches. You just do your single crochet in there. Take off your stitch marker. Chain 1, turn, and work back into the same stitch right here, your single crochet, your first single crochet. Add your stitch marker, and on to round 3, the same thing. And then for after we're done with this round, then we are going to do a different stitch. So just finish round 3 and I will meet you then. Okay, after this third round that you did of single crochets, as usual, go into stitch with the stitch marker, do your single crochet, and then take out the stitch marker, chain 1, turn your work, do your single crochet in here as usual, add your stitch marker. Let me zoom in. We are going to do a V-stitch, a single crochet V-stitch. Okay, the reason why I'm not starting with that V-stitch here is because this is the bottom of the bonnet and I want it all to be the same. So that is why we are keeping always the beginning and the end stitches as single crochet. If you hear my daughter, she's right behind me. She's playing. So anyway, usually you would go into these into this area to do your single crochet, correct? But for the V-stitch, you're going to go further down. So you're going to go through this space. We're going to go through this space right here. So remember, you work this one, so you're not going to go into this space. You're going to start into that next one. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And continue in here into that next one. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So you see, it's just a single crochet, but we're working it further down to give it that V look. And this is only for round number 4 of the body. Then we will repeat the 3 rows of single crochets. And then once again, we will do a V stitch round. So that is basically the pattern that you need to repeat. But I don't want you to forget to be measuring, especially if you're making it for the newborn size. So whenever you finish that V stitch, you always want to be measuring that depth. Okay, so I would do 3 rows of single crochet, then V-stitch, measure. 3 rows of single crochet, V-stitch, measure. Now, when you get to your desired measurement, it doesn't matter what row you're on, whether you're on a single crochet row or a V-stitch row. It really does not matter. Once you're done, then we will continue with that little border around the head. All right, so now, for now, continue until you've reached your size, your measurement for your size with this pattern that I just told you. Obviously, when you get to the other side of that V-stitch row, when you get to this other stitch marker, okay, you are not going to do a V-stitch into this last one because this is where the stitch marker is. You're just going to do your regular single crochet just like we did when we started this row. So this would be your last. Let me actually zoom in. This is where you would do your last V-stitch in here, and then you do your single crochet, chain 1, turn, single crochet, and then continue with your regular rounds. I have now gotten to the measurement that I need for my little one. And like I told you before, it doesn't matter if you end on the V-stitch row or the single crochet row. For example, I had the V-stitch row And then I had 2 more single crochet rows. So don't worry, it doesn't make a difference. Now we're going to work along the bottom of the bonnet. So this is the neckline, what goes around their neck. Just make sure you stay on that side and don't do the front of the bonnet, because so this is the where the face would be. This was my last stitch of the body, and now I am going to take out my stitch marker. That. I am going to chain 1. Now let me get up close again. So you can see there are spaces in between these rows. So it's like every row has a space that you can insert your hook into it. We are going to work single crochets all the way around until we get to the other stitch marker. For example, so insert your hook into this first one, this first space, right there, and do a single crochet. Now I am going to add my stitch marker again, just so that I remember where I started. And now I worked in here. Now I will continue. You just have to pull it apart a little bit and you will see the spaces. Do you see them? I'm going to now work in there and do a single crochet. You're going to do this, like I mentioned before, until you get to the other stitch marker. I will meet you over here. Obviously you're going to get to this part where we have that circle. Remember where we have those, well, those 6 stitches at the beginning, but then they became 4. Do not worry too much if you think you went into like the wrong space or something. You know, as long as it's sort of even, you'll be fine. I don't want to put too much pressure on you about, you know, oh my gosh, I have an extra stitch, or I don't, you know, I took one off, like I skipped one. Don't worry, this crochet thing is supposed to be fun. You're not supposed to stress. It's supposed to relax you. So there, I am just going into the spaces that I see. And that looks good to me. I am now at the other side of the bonnet, so just so you don't get confused. There's the bottom, that neckline. So I did that first round of single crochets only. Now that I've gotten here to my stitch marker, I'm going to do my last stitch there. Like that. Now I am going to chain 1, turn my work, so we're still working on the neckline. Okay, this bottom part of the bonnet. So this is the front, this is the back. Here's that bottom part. We are now going to make our way back with slip stitches. So no single crochets, just slip stitches. You will start your first slip stitch in here, in that second one. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through the one that was on your hook. I'm going to add my stitch marker in here again, just so I know where I started. And now I continue. I go into the next stitch, go through both of those loops, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through the one that was on your hook. One more time, insert your hook through those two little loops, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull that through the loop that was on your hook. You're going to do that all the way to the other side of this bonnet. I will meet you when you get there. I am now at the other end, so here's the bottom, there's the front, so the face, the back of the bonnet. I am going to take out my stitch marker and do my last slip stitch in there. I'm going to chain one and turn my work. So we're still working on the bottom of the bonnet, so the neckline, okay? Now we're going to go back with slip stitches. I'm going to insert my first stitch through here. It's a little harder to get through. I'm going to add my stitch marker again to know where I am. And now I continue. Okay, now that we're going to go back around with slip stitches. So remember, I don't start in this very first one. I go into that second one. And I will continue working with slip stitches. So I'm going to go through there and do my first slip stitch. Oops. Once again. And there. Now I'm going to add my stitch marker and I will continue to do slip stitches. It is going to be a little bit harder. Depending on how tight you make them, it's a bit harder to get back in there. There. Okay, so just do this round of slip stitches and I will meet you at the other end. I am now back on the other side and here's my stitch marker. So I'm going to make one last slip stitch in there. It's a little harder here. Okay, there we go. We are done with, so let me put it so you guys don't get confused. Okay, this is the front of the bonnet, the back, obviously, of the bonnet, and the bottom. So that was it. You did the rows with the slip stitches. And we are now going to do that little detail here on the front of the bonnet. So what goes around the face. You obviously have all those single crochet stitches. Whether you have the V-stitch or the single crochet row, it doesn't matter. And you can see here is where they start. So before you start, you are going to chain one, and each stitch has 2 loops. Let me get up closer. Each of these single crochet stitches has 2 loops, right? This front loop And then there's that back loop. So it's, you know, considering from your point of view. So this is the front, and that's the back loop. We are going to work into the front loops only for this row. So only go through those front loops. And all we're doing is single crochet stitches. Nothing fancy. So start with that first one. Into the front loop only. Do your single crochet. You can add your stitch marker if you like. Then go into the next one. Oops, you see, it's very easy to go through both loops. So only through the front loop. Like that. And as you can tell, I mean, I didn't mention this before, but it doesn't matter yet. It doesn't matter yet which side is the front or the back. Because right now, they're all the same. It just really depends on which side you like better. But we are going to continue this until you get to your other stitch marker, and I will meet you there. Now that you're finished with all the single crochets into those front loops, you will have arrived here at the stitch marker, and if you're wondering if you should do a stitch in there, yes, you should. Because you want an even look. So even though it's like the side of it, I'm just going to go through the front stitch of the side stitches. Okay, now chain one and turn your work. Okay, so we're still working on this front part of the bonnet, right? So what goes around the face. Now that you've turned your work, it should look like this. Do you see these stitches? So I want to get up close now that so that you can see. You see how it looks kind of like these are popping out, these stitches, and that's where we need to work for this next row. So all these loops that are now going to be the front loops, that's where we need to start our single crochets. So this will be my first one, and then there's like a little spot here, you know, because it comes in with the border of the neckline. So you will grab that stitch to start your first single crochet into it. I'm going to add my stitch marker here. Okay, now it kind of jumps, like I said, because of this border, but you will see where you have your next front loop. And you just continue doing your single crochets into those stitches that look like they're coming out. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So there I have arrived at the other side. Do you see what it looks like? It's like a little opening that it does here on the bonnet. And here's my stitch marker. So I know it's always going to be a little bit confusing because you're not really going to have a clear front loop on this last one, once again because of this border that we have for the neckline. So you take out your stitch marker, and there is that opening. Now we're going to chain one again and turn our work. Now let's repeat these steps again, where we crochet only in the front loop. Okay, so only insert your hook and do single crochets into the front loop. I'm going to add my stitch marker once again. I will meet you when you have gone all the way to the other end, to the other stitch marker. Now remember, we're still working in the front of the face, right? So I will go all the way to the stitch marker, working in the front loop. Then once I get over here, I'm going to chain one and turn. So then I will have the other side of the loops. And I would just crochet back in those loops. So only in the front. So the same thing that we did with this bottom part. I'm just letting you know that when you work your way back this time, these bottom loops are not going to be popping out as much, but you can see them. So there, there, there. Don't make the mistake to go up here. It's these ones. But yeah, you can't see them as well as with the first time around when we came back. But see how it's opening up again? Okay, we are back here. I took out my stitch marker, and I know it's always hard to see when you get to these last stitches, like where am I supposed to put in my last stitch? So you just need to look carefully and you'll find that bottom loop. Okay, but here's a close-up, so maybe that will help. And you will see when it aligns with this part. Okay, I hope that makes sense because it is very hard to find that last loop. All right, now we chain one, and we are going to repeat this one more time where we go into the front loop of this one. So not these two. Remember, these are like the little loops here. These are like the little ruffles. So this last row that you just did, you go into the front loop. It is so hard with this yarn. It's like I love but hate this yarn. I love the results with it, but oh my goodness, it's very thin. So it tests your patience. But everything I've done with this yarn, oh my god, lasts so long. I can wash it and wash it. And my daughter does really well with it. You know, and she loves playing with stones and little sticks and everything. And these hold up amazingly well. So this is that last time that you're going to go back and forth. So one more time. Over to this end and then back, so you will see these even better, this little detail even better. We are almost done. You did your last stitch when you got to your stitch marker. Now you're going to cut off the yarn. And all you do is you yarn over and pull it through that loop. Tighten that. Okay, now you can put this to the side. Next, take the yarn again. You're going to form a loop, like so. Insert your hook through that loop. Grab this loose end and start pulling it into the loop. But then carefully kind of turn it, grab the two ends, and pull in opposite directions. Then take one end and adjust the yarn onto your hook. So go ahead and do 63 chains. So you yarn over, twist, and pull through the loop. So that's one chain. Yarn over, twist, and pull through the loop. Yarn over, twist, and pull through the loop. Now you're going to count back from your hook. 1, 2, 3, and into that fourth chain we will do a double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the last 2 loops. And we're going to do these double crochets all the way till you go down. Then we're going to come back up. Now that we're down here, we are going to go back up. So chain 3, turn your work, and then work into this second one. So not this, so this chain of 3 acts as the first one, and then you go into the next stitch to start with your double crochets until you reach the top again. Okay, here's one of my ties, and obviously there's so many different ways to make these. You can do 4 rows of single crochets if you like. It just depends on how thick you want it to be, but I just wanted to show you like the easiest way to make it. And now we want to join it with one of the sides. So if you're looking at your bonnet like this, so this is the outside of it. You're going to open it up and you're going to join this one first. So from this side, you can take out that stitch marker. After that last stitch, just chain 1 on your tie. Now we have to line them up. So that is the little tricky part. And you want to start over here with the outside and work towards the inside of the bonnet, okay? So first you go into the tie, you go into one of those spaces and then grab the bonnet and just try to get the outermost stitch and then yarn over and single crochet. Then again, go into one of those spaces. You're going to move along on the bonnet, yarn over and single crochet. Again, insert your hook through one of those spaces, move along and single crochet. Again, into one of those spaces, move along and single crochet. Okay, so there you can see how I joined it. I'm going to do one more stitch just right out here on that border, which is basically my foundation chain, and join it. Oh, now we can cut this off. Once again, you're going to yarn over, pull through the loop, and tighten that. Now to thread in these loose ends. So I had mentioned that you need a yarn needle. Obviously for this thread, this one is a bit thick. So I'm just gonna take a regular needle that I have, which I'm sure you have some lying around, with them, obviously with a larger eye. And then we're just gonna work this yarn into these spaces. Just kind of go up and down through some of this yarn. That way you won't be able to see it from the outside. And then you work your way back. And if you want, if you still have enough yarn, you can go back up again. But you get the idea. And you're going to do the same with this bottom part of the tie. Going to put in your needle and then thread it into the tie, so back and forth. Then you have to do another tie for the other side. So if you open up the bonnet, then you're going to start. So you have to do it from the inside because otherwise you'll have this bulky part on the outside, so you don't want that. So you have to then now start from so if this is the inside of the bonnet, from the middle, you start your stitches here and then work out. Then you thread in all of your yarns, all of your loose ends that you have here, and this one you can bring this one in and then thread it into the circle. And you are done with your bonnet. Don't you love it? I love the simplicity of it. I think it looks amazing. I love bonnets, like I mentioned before. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you want to follow me on Instagram, go ahead. I would love to see you there. Tag me with your work. I will see you next time. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is my channel, Humblehus. Bye.